If you are dealing with a lot of low back tension, today we're going to provide you with a few exercises to help you stretch and release the tension you may be feeling in your low back. So what I like to do is start with a little mobilization. So we want to make sure that we are getting some movement within our pelvis to help, because a lot of times when we deal with low back tension, it has to do with being stuck in one position. So we're just going to kind of move through this rounding position, rounding our pelvis, tucking our tailbone under, and then think about pulling your heels towards you to lift up onto those sits bones. And you can just do like 10 reps of this to help work on releasing and moving, creating mobility within those hips to help. Excellent. Now what we're going to do is just kind of reach over to our side. So you're just going to reach up and over. And I like to try to let my elbow drop all the way down to the mat while I keep my hip down. That's the key here. We don't want to rise up or you're not going to feel the stretch as much. So reach over, and I like to pretend like someone is pulling my pinky finger away so I can get full stretch through that whole length of my side. And then we're going to go to the other side, do the same thing, reaching over, trying to drop that elbow all the way down and reach. So anytime we think about a tight area on our body, we tend to think about going to the source, always going to the source. But what I want you to start thinking about is what is happening around that low back. Where might we be tight around that area? In our glutes, up above, in our mid to upper back. That's where I like to go if I'm thinking of tension and tightness in an area. And then come up. Now we're going to go to hands and knees, and you've probably seen this exercise. It's a cat and cow. The difference with this, when I do this, is I want to pay attention to segmenting through the different positions, because what happens when you do a basic cat and cow, you tend to go to where the body feels most comfortable, which is usually the problem as to why we're dealing with the tension. So instead, we're going to think about tucking that tailbone under. So we're trying to create mobility down here, tucking under, and then slowly rolling up. Try to get rolling through that mid back, which tends to be tight on many of us, and then rounding up through that upper body. And then same thing, dropping it down, trying to create that extension through the different parts before you drop all the way down through the hips. Now, when I drop down through my hips, I want to also think about lifting up from pubic bone to rib cage to work on strengthening the core at the same time. And then you can come back and you can do that nice and slow again, trying to create movement. And you'll see here that I don't get a lot of mid-back movement here. I'm really good with my thoracic, but I really struggle. So you might want to even hold into those spots and then take a deep breath. Any area that you notice tension or tightness. And that might help to relieve and create more movement through those parts. Next thing, I'm going to bring one hand directly in front of the other hand, and then I'm going to push my hips back and away towards the opposite heel, and then drop down. And while I'm here, one thing I like to do is I want to think lift from my armpit up, and you may feel how that changes the stretch. And then back up to neutral. And you can go back through that one. That's a one that feels really good. From your other side, drop it down. And this may be tight enough. This might feel good enough here. If not, start thinking about lifting up from that underarm, and you'll feel how that stretch might move up into the chest. And then relax. And then the last one that I like to do is, again, working to get the mid-back involved, is I'm going to go to a bench, a table. You can do this standing or seated. And I'm going to place my elbows on whatever that is and then pull back here. Make sure when you're doing any of these movements, like that one, like that stretch where the elbows are out in front, activate your core. So if you are dealing with low back pain, not only do you want to stretch out the low back, but you also want to pay attention to strengthening your core at the same time. So work on strengthening your core, releasing that tension in the low back. The other thing that you may want to do if you have a foam roller is work on stretching into the glutes. I'll actually show you. Sorry, I just came up with one in my head. You might want to curl those toes under, and we're going to work on pushing the hips back towards the heels without allowing our back to round. So you can just work through this, try to lock that pelvis into place, and then just work through this position here to what's comfortable. If you can get all the way down, go for it, but I don't want you rounding through that low back. So that'll help work on stretching the glutes. And then you can also, if you have a foam roller, have a seat on that. You're going to bring one knee up. I like to pull that knee towards me, and then I roll towards that knee, and you're going to find some tension spots here. Ooh. And you can roll those tension spots out. Make sure when you're foam rolling, you're not like sinking into the shoulder. We don't want to create tension, tightness, aggravation in other parts of our body when doing certain exercises. So just think about lengthening through that shoulder, using it to help stabilize while you roll. So hopefully that helps. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions. You can comment below. And then if you are watching this, you can also like and subscribe to our channel and ask me any more questions you may have.